ne ka eto abo.
Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the U-Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
The chapter on APA and promotions has been replaced by a new chapter on the new performance management system.
Federal Executive Council approves implementation of revised public service rules.
Export is supposed to be free in Nigeria under extant laws and regulations.
House of Representatives to investigate alleged extortions on air cargo.
The Inspector General of Police assures Nigerians of maximum security during and beyond independence celebration.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss ways of strengthening Nigeria's independence and national unity.
National unity is the strength that builds and inspires the people of any country. In reality, its protection, peace, independence, and sovereignty are directly dependent on and relative to a nation's pride, patriotism, and social cohesion, also known as unity.
Now, the task of unifying the various ethnic, religious, and social groupings in Nigeria has been a national challenge more than 100 years since amalgamation in 1914. This has been particularly so considering that all governments since independence in 1960 have made national unity an important agenda.
Well, that's right, Kinsley. And concomitant programs, policies, and mantras, including institutionalization of the federal character principle, the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, Unity Schools, National Symbols, National Orientation Agency, the NOA, and mantras such as the unity of the nation is not negotiable. Among others, have now been adopted to facilitate national unity in Nigeria.
That's very correct, Nadabo. And yet, the gap between the various groupings seems wider as the nation continues to be plagued by ethnic rivalry, power sharing, and lately violent agitations, to mention just a few. Now, unifying the diverse ethnic, religious, and political groupings in the country amongst insecurity challenges remains one that the current administration is determined to surmount in order to uphold the central tenet of one nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity, and where justice reigns.
Yes, some sociology experts will still argue that diversity in and of itself is not a problem. It is what is done with it that matters. Whether or not sociocultural variety results in strive for collective success entirely depends on how a society chooses to manage it.
No question about that, Nadabo. However, disagreements and controversies over the best structure to be adopted, the size and responsibility of government, and the nature of relationships amongst the various component units, as well as how resources are acquired and shared, have become a recurring feature of the Nigerian state.
And as Nigeria marks our 61st independence, how can the issue of solidarity that is in action and purpose in the midst of hundreds of ethnic nationalities, each exerting both centrifugal and centripetal powers, be realized? How can they coexist in peace and unity in spite of obvious differences in culture, aptitudes, and level of development?
Very pertinent questions you have raised there, Nadabo. Now, those, of course, are among the other issues we shall be discussing with our guests on Good Morning Nigeria today, as we focus on strengthening Nigeria's independence and national unity. Tomorrow, of course, is Nigeria's 61st independence anniversary. So on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall be taking a look at that perspective. Welcome to the program, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And my name is Yusuf Dadabo Usman. I also join Kingsley to welcome you to the program. As usual, we shall bring to you our complimentary segments in the course of the program. For now, here is our colleague Dennis Adegunloye with the morning news. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Nadabo, and good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. The Federal Executive Council has given approval for the implementation of a revised public service rules. Council also gave approval to the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy for the award of contract for the upgrade of infrastructure to improve communication structures among ministries, departments, and agencies.
The chapter on APA and promotions has been replaced by a new chapter on the new performance management system that has been introduced into the public service. There's also a chapter that has also been reinvigorated, the chapter on training. This is an all-important chapter because of the importance that training has in the public service. We also have a new chapter on virtual meetings.
At the Senate, the newly signed Petroleum Industry Act is beginning to receive legislative improvements. The Senate has passed for second reading the bill that seeks to amend the Act to ensure national equity and strengthen the administrative structure of the new system.
It is also important to note that administratively, the representatives of the ministries on the board will be directors, being the same rank with the directors of the institutions.
Put forward this bill to the National Assembly. It shows that Mr. President is a leader. Of course, we know he's a leader that is very much interested in equity.
And let me also commend the executive for starting the immediate implementation of this act, because this is how it is supposed to be.
The House of Representatives says the federal government's interest in diversifying the nation's economy might not achieve the desired results due to an imbalance in the import-to-export ratio. This is as a result of alleged extortion and illegal charges imposed on air cargo billed for export. The House has therefore launched an investigation to identify all issues affecting air freight services after the matter was raised by Deputy Minority Leader Toby Okechukwu. The House noted that Nigeria's agro-allied market potential is worth more than 250 billion naira, but local exporters are abandoning the business due to alleged official bottlenecks. It also expressed concern that the imbalance on import to export is 87 to 13. Inspector General of Police Usman Alkali Baba has assured the nation of maximum security as the nation marks 61st Independence Anniversary on Friday, the 1st of October 2021. The IGP noted that the force has put in place adequate security measures to protect citizens, ensure the success of all activities lined up for the anniversary celebration, and prevent any untoward situation throughout the period of the celebration and beyond. Consequently, Assistant Inspectors General of Police and Commissioners of Police in all the zones and state commands, as well as the FCT, have been directed to lead the Independence Anniversary security operations from the front line. They are to ensure high visibility and confidence-boosting patrols around the venues of the celebrations, residential areas, and other places of public resort to prevent any infiltration by hostile elements. The IGP, while congratulating President Muhammadu Buhari and Nigerians on the occasion of the Independence Anniversary celebration, pledged the unalloyed loyalty of the Nigeria Police Force to the sovereignty of the country, as well as its unflinching commitment to combating crime and criminality in the country and ensuring the safety of citizens. The IGP called on the people to go about the celebration peacefully and to be law-abiding. He also appealed for a new sense of a pan-Nigerian spirit, patriotism, love, and deliberate efforts by leaders at all levels at de-escalating ethnic tensions and suspicions in the land. President Muhammadu Buhari is deeply saddened by the gruesome murder of Dr. Chike Akunyili, the husband of late former Director General of the National Agency for the Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, Professor Dora Akunyili. In a statement by the Special Advisor to the President, Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, the President shares the pain of the children of Professor and Dr. Akunyili, their families and friends whose lives will never remain the same after the inhumane and reprehensible act that happened in Onitsha, Anambra State. President Buhari has fond memories of working with the late Dora Akunyili at the Petroleum Trust Fund, and Nigerians will never forget the memory of the Amazon, who distinguished herself as a courageous, dependable, and patriotic citizen. In joining security agencies and leaders have thought to work harder to bring an end to the violence being unleashed on innocent Nigerians, the President assures the grieving families who lost their loved ones in the incident that the perpetrators of the heinous act will face both judgment of man and that of God. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 437 new cases of the virus in the country. A breakdown of the new cases indicates that Lagos has the highest number for the day with 126 new infections. Rivers records 76, Kwara 44, the FCT 37, Edo 32, Kaduna 30, Anambra and Delta 22 new cases each, Osun 12, and 7 in Benue. Abia and Nasarawa states have 6 new cases each, Kano 5, Ekiti and Plateau 3 each, while Bayelsa, Ogun and Oyo recorded 2 new cases. Nigeria now has 205,484 confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 193,482 have been successfully treated and discharged. 2,701 persons have now died of the virus. Well, that's the news for now. The program continues very shortly after this break with Kingsley and Nadabu. Good morning.
We've been trying our best to contain the situation, and in our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities, and we've been able to also recover particularly arms and ammunition from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all. To look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Hey there, what's on your bucket list? Would you like to travel the world, live your best life? What if I told you you could blow right this minute and do everything on that list? Airtel is celebrating its anniversary and saying thank you to all loyal customers. You stand a chance to win up to 100 million naira with guaranteed cash tokens in the Airtel Recharge and Blow Anniversary promo. Plus 250 megabytes and 20 SMS free. How awesome is that? All you have to do is recharge to win. For more information, dial *444*4#. Everyone's a winner. So hurry now. The more you recharge, the more you win.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcomes you back to school. Have a session filled with lots of fun and excitement. Stay safe, stay healthy. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
Chelsea will look to bounce back from their loss against the defending champions when they take on Southampton at Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed? Find out this Saturday on the Premier League Live. It's Chelsea versus Southampton, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu, empowered by Integral.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you from the Nigerian Television Authority. Up next is the business review by Comfort Amadou.
Nigeria has developed a 5-year policy to reposition the nation's micro, small and medium enterprises sector for improved performance. Director General of the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDEN, Dr. Diko Umaru Rada, disclosed this at the unveiling of the newly approved revised national policy on MSMEs for 2021 to 2025 in Abuja.
I will therefore want to urge all stakeholders, in person or virtual, to see this meeting as a final seal needed to publicly declare our institutional commitment to work towards the realization of the policy objectives.
We are committed to promoting and supporting every initiative towards the advancement of MSMEs in Nigeria.
Focusing on the availability of financial and non-financial services that enable MSMEs contribute optimally to national output and wealth creation, the new policy's vision is to ensure the emergence and sustenance of an ecosystem that enables the sector to be globally competitive. With Business News, Comfort Amadou.
Many thanks, Comfort Amadou, for the business news package. Next for us is newspaper review. All right, my colleague Nadabo and I will begin taking a look at the stories we have on the front pages of the papers before Bayo Atoyebi joins us later on in the course of the review session. Nadabo?
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. It seems Bayo is held up in the traffic this morning. So let's look at, let's start with the Punch newspaper this morning and then see what we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper and, of course, inside it. Right above the masthead, we have some few stories, and then these stories include the one on page 22, which says we've completed incorporation of NMPC as a limited liability company, says CAC, that's the Corporate Affairs Commission. Details of that on page 22. On page 12, Jonathan says, I'm surprised some people oppose electronic voting. That's former President Goodluck Jonathan. Get details of that on page 12. And on page 6, declare bandits terrorists. Launch total war against them. Senate tells President Muhammadu Buhari. Get details of that on page 8. And on page 22, Nigerians without NIN won't get passports or driving license, says NCC. Nigerians without NIN won't get passports or driving license, says NCC. Right below the masthead, we have the main story of the Punch today, which is, again, bandits hit Niger State, killed 30. Kaduna shuts phone services. Again, bandits hit Niger, killed 30. Kaduna shuts phone services. The rider said Kaduna-based gunmen invade Niger communities, burn village completely, and casualty unknown. And then the second rider is experts warn South, fear ban Kaduna Okada riders exodus to Lagos, Oyo, Ekiti, Edo, and other states in the South. Details of all these can be gotten on pages 2 and page 27. A little window there just beside the masthead on page 8, it says, fear spreads in Southeast as hoodlums murder Akinle's husband, 8 others. Fear spreads in Southeast as hoodlums murder Akinle's husband and 8 others. Now, when we look down near the bottom of the page, at the foot of it before that, we have 3 or so stories. Federal government declares Friday holiday for Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary. The details of that on page 9. And on page 8 still, another bombing arrow kills 20 residents in Borno. Another bombing arrow kills 20 residents in Borno. Details on page 8. On page 27, federal government approves 14-day paternity leave. Adopted children's fathers covered. On page 27, 14 days paternity leave for, approved by the federal government, and details of that will be found on page 27. At the foot of the page, on page 21, federal government revokes 5,793 mining licenses in 6 years. Operators blame insecurity. On pages 4 and 5, there's a story there. Buhari orders ex-FIIRO DG's trial for collecting 18 years salaries with phantom certificate. Buhari orders ex-FIIRO DG's trial for collecting 18 years salaries with phantom certificate. Details on pages 4 and 5. And finally, on page 10, Southern governors should have consulted northern counterparts on 2023. El-Rufai says so. Southern governors should have consulted northern counterparts on 2023, according to El-Rufai. That's on page 10 of the Punch newspaper. Kinsley?
Thank you very much, Nadabo. Let's also take a look at the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Below the name flag, you have the headline, PIA, that's the Petroleum Industry Act. NNPC completes CAC Incorporation, now limited liability company. With the write-up, President Muhammadu Buhari replaces NPR board nominee. The lead story comes with a double-decker headline and has a number of writers. Hours after Senator's damning verdict, bandits kill 30 in Niger. Lawmakers want them branded terrorists, said military should bomb them wherever they are. Anxiety grips Kaduna residents as government shuts down telecom networks today. Agulu community mourns as gunmen killed Dr. Akunyili. Governors should focus on security, not next election. That's according to Labour. Court bars EFCC from retrying Orji Uzo Kalu. Independence Day, federal government declares Friday public holiday. And similar to what Nadabo read earlier from The Punch, workers to enjoy 14-day paternity leave. It should be fathers, actually, not just workers, because women can also be workers.
Fathers.
Well, it doesn't say working fathers. Workers to enjoy 14-day paternity leave. That's fine. Allow e-transmission of election results, Jonathan tells National Assembly. Diaspora voting is our wish. That's according to Lawan. 2023. Northern governors didn't oppose power shifts. That's according to Rufai. So that's the outlook. We also have a copy of the Nation newspaper, but basically the stories are similar to what we have read from the leadership newspaper. Right? I believe so.
Well, yeah, but you know, that story on page 27 here, which you really read, talking about paternity leave for workers. Oh, that's a new development here in the civil service. Of course, having, if maybe your wife or your spouse or whatever, you know, delivers of a baby, you'll be given 14 days to really bond, they say, bond with the newborn baby.
Well, that's part of the resolutions of the Federal Executive Council. According to the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, the public service rules have not been revised since 2008, and that's a 13-year period. Ordinarily, the revision should take place every 5 years. And so you have this proposal that was tabled before the Federal Executive Council, and it was approved. It is one amongst other proposals in the rules that have now been approved by the Federal Executive Council. The other one, of course, is on the calculation of annual leave. That is now to be based on working days and not on calendar days. Yeah. But of course, the headline catcher is the one that now grants 14-day paternity leave to workers in the civil service. Well, this is interesting. What is not immediately stated is, well, the point about allowing the father to bond with the newborn. I don't think that's a particularly valid rationale. Bonding doesn't necessarily take place in the first 14 days of the life of a baby. At what time do you take the paternity leave? Is it when the baby is immediately born or otherwise? And if the consideration is also for adopted babies, you don't adopt a baby on the day the baby is born. There are procedures for adoption you have to apply, and so on and so forth. So the argument that it will enable you bond with the new baby within 14 days is, in my view, respectful view, it's not solid.
Well,
but what is solid? What is solid, I believe, has to do with the usual pressure that both the father and the mother go through when a new baby is born. It's a new life into the home, and there's disruption to one's regular activities and schedules. Babies, of course, tend to be awake more at night, and then sleep during the daytime. And if you are a father, you can't have your comfort in the early days. You have either if your mother is not around, your mother-in-law is around, the other persons are around, or muguo, and all kinds of things. And so you have that initial disruption, and you can't really have a full presence of mind to say you want to concentrate on work.
Well, bonding, when they say bonding, I think it's all about trying to get close to the mother and then really assist her in certain ways, and maybe psychologically, and then in order to cope with what you said, the newborn in the home, the family, the newcomer who is supposed to really be taken as somebody or as a stranger that's just fallen. So the mother requires some attention of the father, and of course the family members too. And even talking about the the adoption of the baby, I think the the Public Service Reform says it's only for babies that were adopted 3 months. 3 months babies, so and above, they were adopted, need to have, those who do the adoption should get the 14-day, paternity leave. So I think it's a good thing for civil servants, at least they could have time to really get close to the family once again. And of course, as you say, disruption and trying to, cope with the daily routines and of course trying to make up with the baby that has just come in.
Nadabo, there's another issue to this matter.
What is it?
How many paternity vacations can you have over a course of... oh, you're chuckling. How many paternity vacations can you have over a course of time? And this is because we know that there are physiological differences between the male and the female. Normally, a woman cannot have more than 1 baby in 1 year. But a man can have a number of babies in a year. Yeah. So,
depending on the number of wives you have.
The number of wives. So, how does this? Because if you remember, there is a subsisting national policy on the number of children that each family should strive to have, 4. And this was enunciated during the Babangida administration. So can you, in the course of your working career, be applying for maternity leave every year or every other year, 14 days, you have done paternity leave rather, for first baby, second, third, fourth, and then, of course, I'm counting.
And of course, when you talk about twins in this regard or triplets, what happens? How do you work it out? 14 days.
That's right. I mean, but it doesn't require you to double or multiply. But I believe that these are things to be sorted out to say, because if you apply for paternity leave, it goes into your records.
It does,
and then there's also a requirement for you to indicate the number of children that you have. If you can, a father be who is an employee, be applying for paternity leave every year or every other year. Well, if you try that in the private sector, I mean, the chances are that you will get a letter, so-called SLR, services no longer required. So that we go and face paternity issues.
There is much more to that. At least the head of civil service will further clarify that and make it very much known and explained to civil servants.
I'm sorry to jump in again. The whole issue of calculating vacation based on working days, what is the rationale? What is the rationale to say working days rather than calendar days? How many days of vacation does a worker need or require in a year? Because if you calculate it on calendar days, if you calculate on calendar days, that would be like if you are entitled to a 42-day leave, that means 42 calendar days. But if you say you are entitled to 42-day leave, so it means that it will be 5 days in a week. 5 days in a week, and if tomorrow is a public holiday, for instance, and tomorrow is a public holiday,
that one goes out.
It goes out. So, which kind of economy can accommodate such? I don't know.
There are going to be more days there for civil servants going on leave. But all the same, as I said earlier on, more explanation will be coming from the head of civil service in order to really buttress these approvals made by the Federal Executive Council as contained in the Public Service Reform. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll now take your break.
The federal government, through NPHCDA, commenced Phase 2 vaccination of all persons 18 years and above with safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines approved by WHO and certified by NAFDAC. Special arrangement has been made for staff, their dependents and retirees of ministries, departments and agencies of government, private corporate organizations and non-governmental organizations. To benefit from this special arrangement, visit www.nphcda.gov.ng/corporate vaccination to obtain, fill and submit the Google form. NPHCDA will contact you within 48 hours. Protect yourself, your family and your workplace against COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccines vaccines are free, safe and effective. For further inquiries, call 0700-220-1122 or send a mail to covid19.vaccination@nphcda.gov.ng. This message is from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health, because they deserve the best. Oral-B, all-round protection. It's great value. It protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
I dey enjoy Nollywood film, Orisun, PBO, AMC be my best channel. But ST Nollywood Plus, they show the latest Nollywood blockbuster on top classic bouquet. How I want to watch am?
My pikin dey enjoy 5 children's channels, but e wan come add DreamWorks on top am.
I be telenovela lover and I like ST Novella E and Starlight. But I hear say the series on ST Novella E Plus on top classic bouquet, the totori person pass wetin I dey see now, and I wan watch am. Sure, I go need pay 800 naira extra.
From September 1, Star Times, they summer you better package. But no fear, we no increase price. Join this offer. Make basic bouquet subscribers just pay for 1 month and then go fit to watch 3 Ogbonge extra channels from Classic Bouquet. This awoof never finish. Recharge Classic or Super Bouquet for 1 month and you fit be one of the 400 lucky people them. We go win smartphone. Terms and conditions, they shall. More value, same price. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
Chelsea will look to bounce back from their loss against the defending champions when they take on Southampton at Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed? Find out this Saturday on the Premier League Live. It's Chelsea versus Southampton, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu, empowered by Integral.
Now, before we begin our conversation on strengthening independence and national unity, let's take a look at this package put together by our correspondent, Joseph Watson.
On the 1st of October 2021, Nigeria will be 61 years. It has been a journey of multi-ethnic nationalities, different religious groups, and dynamic political system under one roof as a united country. Blessed with huge potential in human and natural resources, including agriculture and minerals across the country, Nigeria has the needed push to be a great nation. The merger of the Southern and Northern Protectorate in 1914 by the British colonial government gave birth to the country, but it took patriotic and passionate struggle from the people and their leaders for the country to gain independence on the 1st of October 1960, with Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa emerging as the first federal prime minister of Nigeria. However, Nigeria marks total independence from the British when it became a federal republic on 1st of October 1963, with Nnamdi Azikiwe as the first president. Political unrest led to a military coup in 1966. This will be followed by other military juntas until October 1st, 1979. There will be another military intervention in 1983. Nevertheless, since 1999, Nigeria has enjoyed uninterrupted democratic government. Bad governance has, however, set a pace for economic hardship, which experts peg to present insecurity, ethnic and religious tension in the country. Amidst these challenges, Nigeria still remains an indivisible country. As it gears towards 61 years, what role will patriotism and strengthening diversity play to fortify the nation's independence and national unity? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will share perspectives on this soon.
Thank you very much, Joseph Olsen, for the background. With us in the studios now to discuss these issues, let's welcome Professor Nuhu Yakub, is former Vice-Chancellor at University of Abuja. Of course, he's also a political scientist. Professor Yakub, delighted to have you this morning.
It's also my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Also with us in the studios is Chief Obizoba Chiemelo, who is DG, Strategic Planning and Implementation of Ohaneze Ndigbo General Assembly worldwide. He's also an ambassador of peace to the United Nations. Thank you for being with us, Chief Chairman.
Thank you, and good morning, our viewers.
And joining us from my Ibadan studio is Professor Oluwole Albert, Professor of Peace and Conflict Studies, University of Ibadan. Thank you for joining us, Prof.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and good morning, Nigerians.
And joining us again from Benin is Dr. Osaworu Okunzwe, Public Affairs Analyst. You're welcome to Good Morning, Nigeria. Right, it seems as if we're having difficulty in trying to connect with Dr. Osaworu Okunzwe. Whenever we're ready, we get him, we'll try to make him join us and, of course, be part of the conversation.
All right, gentlemen, once again, I'd delight to have you with us on the program for today. Tomorrow is the 61st anniversary of Nigeria's independence. Perhaps one way to start our conversation would be, are we realizing the dividends of our national independence? Professor Nuhuyaku.
Thank you very much. Well, the answer is yes, with little no.
How little is the no?
That's right. Yes, because, for 61 years now, we've been together, despite the rancors, some misgivings. And, what one will say, civil war, not in the sense of the civil war of 67 to 70, but even after the civil war of the 67 to 70 period, we are still engaged in, internal squabbles, which I think, up to now, we should have overcome. Not necessarily because Nigeria is indivisible. In fact, the point has to be stressed. It's not that Nigeria is indivisible. It is possible. I mean, if you look at hegemonic states like the former Soviet Union, scattering Yugoslavia, also dismembering, then you can see that, the thread that actually connects Nigerians is so thin that it can snap any moment. But as I said, we have actually enjoyed what one would consider to be the dividends of independence because, despite all the problems we've had over the years, we are still staying together. And a lot of people actually think that this country, can, actually assume its destiny, which is that it's a formidable country, the largest country in Africa, currently a country with the largest economy in Africa. And then we have, a number of countries are looking for, which they don't have, both human and material resources. So we can actually, turn the fate of the country around and actually continue to proceed on, a very sustainable national integration and development.
Thank you so much, Professor Nuhuyaku. Chief Obizoba Shemelu, what's your take on Nigeria 61 years?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just like as Prof said, Nigeria at 61 will have a lot to celebrate. At least, even though we have our ups and downs, every country has its ups and downs. Yeah. Every country fights to make sure that they stabilize the system politically and economically and otherwise. So Nigeria is not an isolation. Just like as he mentioned, after the Civil War that ended in 1970, we've been having our challenges. Our challenges, unfortunately, most of our political elites and our traditional rulers recently are not doing enough to harness our diversity so that we begin to forget about our tribal sentiment or religious sentiment. If you watch what happens to the various segments of the country today, you find out that it's difficult Nigeria is having, it's not about the government per se, even though we have some issues with the government, but it's about the people. The people have been able to put in disarray by the people they expect to look towards as their role model, who would give them the sense of belonging and give them the quality advice so that they can be able to come together. Just like as Prof said, it's not as if Nigeria cannot be divided or thereabout. But what binds us together is stronger than what separates us. In this Nigerian context today, for instance, over the weekend I was in Kano for an inauguration of Igbo community in Kano, organized in Igbo. And when I look at the love within the Igbo resident in Kano and the Muslim community in Kano, the hall were filled up with different, both Yorubas, both the Muslim community. In short, they gave award to one of a very strong member of a political personality in that program over the weekend on Sunday. It gives me joy that there is hope for this country, because not as the way our media have painted it is not the way it is. We have a lot of media propaganda. And these mushroom media have not helped the system. Every time they prompt up with issues that divide us, that instead of giving us the issue that unite us, we have our challenges, and our challenges are enormous, but we'll surmount our challenges where we sit down together to talk as a people. Even though you are marginalized, yes, the South is agitating. After the Civil War, they have not been treated fair. But we need to continue to talk. Talking is inevitable. Discussion, constructive engagement, that is what we need as a people to be able to strengthen the democracy and be able to harness the dividends of independence. I think that is what we need. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks a lot, Chief Chiamelu. Let's go over now to our Ibadan Network Center. Well, we seem to also be having linkage issues with our Ibadan Network Center. Well, it's back up again now. You can see Professor Olawale Albert there on the right side of your screen. He's a professor of peace and conflict studies at the University of Ibadan. Prof, I'd like to pose the same question to you. 61 years on, are we as a country realizing the dividends of our national independence?
Well, I think I have to start by congratulating us for attaining our 61st independence, because not many nations of the world are that lucky. For us to have attained the age of 61, I think is a cause for celebration. Now, back to your question. I think the dreams of our forefathers, the nationalists that actually fought to give us independence in 1960, I don't think those dreams have been realized. Our original intention is to grow into becoming a very big nation, the biggest nation of black people in the world. So then we have the potentials for it, the human potentials, the material resources for building the nation. Unfortunately, we have not been able to attain our optimum level of growth. To me, I think the problem of this country is not with the people. It is largely with the elite class. The Nigerian state from the 1960s to the present has been battling with the problem of elite fragmentation. You know, the elites are expected to establish the framework for turning Nigeria into the giant of the world, not just giant of Africa. And why am I saying this? We have two types of nations. There is the monolithic nation, the nation that consists of same people, the same tradition of origin. Nigeria does not belong to that category. Ours is multinational. We have a multinational framework. Now, we are divided into different ethnic groups, different religious groups. It is the responsibility of the leadership to actually bring all of us together. Unfortunately, in our politics, we divide the nation. In allocation of resources, we divide the nation. In management of the resources, we divide the nation. And the conflicts that we generate at the national level trickles down to the people at the grassroots level. Now, this is why the ordinary Nigerian who is a victim of this problem, you know, they fight themselves, and we make the nation very, very ungovernable. Now, our type of political management system is also problematic. Too much power is concentrated at the federal level. And therefore, you find two people fighting in a remote village in Nigeria, and the case is taken to Abuja for management. You know, you go to the police station to say, look, we saw two fowls fighting yesterday. We want to know what happened. And the DPO will tell you the matter has been taken to Abuja. So the problem is that Abuja is overburdened, you know, with problems that are not supposed to be managed at that level. So there's the need for us to decentralize many things in this nation. Unfortunately, the political will is not there.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Let's come back to the studio here and then hear from Professor Nuhu Yakubu. Earlier you said there is a little no to the yes. You think we have really made some gains in strengthening Nigeria's independence and, of course, our national unity. And looking at what the Prof said, the problem, he said, basically is the elite issue. And when we look at our peers in the world, those who would have gotten independence, but at the same time, the story is not really good to hear per se as to our own position in relation to their own position while they are in the world in the Committee of Nations. The problem of the elite. How would you react to this, given the fact that the elites are the drivers of development because they lead, and of course they are the politicians, they are the businessmen, they are the entrepreneurs, and of course we find now, you know, accusing fingers pointed towards them. What's the problem?
Well, I think the issue is not simply that of the elite, the way I see it. It was Chinua Achebe that said the problem of Nigeria is squarely the problem of leadership, and he stopped at that point. And I have added that, no, it's not just the problem of the leadership or elite, but also the problem of the followership. Because, you know, when you look at the consequence of the quote-unquote misbehavior of the elites, who are usually, you know, the people that suffer more? It's the followership, you know. And because there is always the possibility of the elite meeting to resolve their differences, to resolve their differences. And they do it to their advantage, not to the advantage of the followership. So I think that what we need to really look at is that, yes, the elites have been, as I said, quote-unquote, misbehaving, but also the followership should, you know, have a way of actually also defining the realm of, you know, their destiny. What is it that, you know, the elites are supposed to provide, which have not been provided? And therefore, because the followership simply, they're not just dummies waiting to be fed with the menu that comes from
the followership really, Prof, have their own problem. But don't you think the elite too have?
No, I'm not, that's what I said. I'm not disputing the fact that, you know, the elite, that's why I use the word quote-unquote misbehave.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's not that I am underrating or even dismissing that. But I'm saying that the followership, you know, also need to wake up and challenge. You know, it's not just a question of, even within the elite, in fact, even in some countries, you discover that, you know, right from the grassroots, new leadership will emerge. They may also, you know, turn out to be, you know, to belong to the rank of the elites. But the fact of the matter is that they have come up from the groundswell of opposition or disappointment that the followership have been exposed to, and they will now say, no, enough is enough. You know, I mean, if you look at even the short historical trajectory of Nigeria, Look at, in the First Republic, you have, parties of the, what I would call, the underprivileged. I'm referring in this instance to NEPU, the UMBC, that's, the Middle Belt Congress. These are people who felt they are people that are marginalized. In the case of even Aminu Kanu, he was talking about Talakawa. The Talakawa, that is the entire, underdogs in the society. That is the marginalized, the people who are really marginalized. And honestly speaking, I don't want to accept this notion that, it is either the profiling of a particular ethnic group. It doesn't solve the problem. Because if you go to any particular ethnic group, you also find the problems we are talking that affects generality of Nigerians. Is it poverty we are talking about that they don't have? There's no part of this country that is not poor. There's no part of this country that do not have people who are also marginalized. So I am looking at it from a more globalized perspective, that the followership will now have to also find a way of connecting with one another. Of course, we can also expect that the elite will want to sabotage that, but that is the only way they can go about, making sure that if the leadership, the elite do not want to actually allow the destiny of this country to be realized, then somebody will have to, engineer such a development. And indeed, in many societies, if you talk, look at the history of most countries, especially where revolutions have taken place, it will have to be from the groundswell of, agitation and opposition from the, followership.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Professor Nuhu Yakub. We understand that our connection to our Benin Network Center has been sorted out by our engineers. On the screen there, you can see Dr. Okunzwa Osawaro, a regular on Good Morning Nigeria public affairs analyst. Dr. Osawaro, same question that I would like you to also take as your opening salvo. Are we realizing our dividends of national independence 61 years on?
Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning to all our compatriots in the studio and in the Badon. Well, I think Professor Yakub has stated it so nicely, and I'm very, very impressed. He's talked about a big yes and a small no. We actually have to draw a kind of balance on the left side, on the right side. It is true that sitting to celebrate, we are able to form an entity called Nigeria. Nation statehood is the modern form of social organization. People no longer live in tribal societies. So whatever forces brought us together in 1914 probably propelled us towards modernity. But upon attainment of independence in 1960 or becoming a republic in 1963, we became masters of our own destiny. And of course, as the late Nnamdi Azikiwe said, our history is be checkered. There are some mistakes we have made, which we can correct. And the potentials we have, our natural endowment, our human endowment, and so on, which we can also harness to make progress in the country and make Nigeria really fulfill his stated destiny, being a black power, being a sanctuary for every black man around the world, and so on and so forth. So to answer your question in the mode of Professor Yakub, I think Nigeria has a lot to celebrate at 61, but we have a lot to correct. And from the discussion so far, talking about our leadership and how our affairs have been managed, I think we need to be more enterprising in that regard. We need more of quality statesmanship. We need to have a national outlook. We must see Nigeria as an entity. Our leaders must have a kind of national outlook, so much so that any person from Benin who is aspiring to national leadership must be sympathetic to the problems of people in Sokoto and accept them as its own compatriots, and the other way around too. So there is something to celebrate. Nigeria has made progress, but we have a lot of deficits to be covered. That would be my opinion.
Thank you so much, Dr. Osauru Okunzwa. Let's come back to the studio and then hear from Chief Obizoba Chemelu. He's talking about quality statesmanship, talking about patriotism. And of course, when we look at these issues, we seem not to really have it right. We didn't have it right all through since after the Civil War, I must say, because before the Civil War, of course, the regional governments and the administrators had good time with their people, and then they really represented them properly and had, good dividends for that. But right after independence, right after the Civil War, all through the golden age of Nigeria between 70 to 85, 86 or thereabout, and beyond that, well, we have problems now. What is the problem with Nigeria's patriotism? Why are Nigerians really not so patriotic as we are supposed to be, given the fact that that should be the starting point for national unity?
Thank you very much. The bar in terms of patriotism is about the way the elites, the political class, the leaders behave recent days. There's high corruption in the system. And when a system is highly corrupt, then you hardly can make any progress. You cannot make progress where there's a massive corruption. Sometimes I disagree, just like our counterpart in Ibadan said. It's not about concentrating on concentration of power at the center. In 1999, when Olusegun Obasanjo attained office, he made sure that the governors at that time conducted local government elections. And the local government were functional very efficiently. You can be able to attest some local government going to communities to fix electricity, because these are the government that is close to the people. But today, you can only see a senior houseboy as a local government chairman coming to government house every Monday morning to come and answer the governor, "Good morning, sir. We need pocket money."
So a senior houseboy?
Yes. Okay. No, that is what I qualify them for. Because people don't talk about this governance. The governors are the emperor. They are the biggest problem Nigeria is facing today. They always wield their power. Remember that they have become a chief executive officer each time they want to withhold their political opponent. But it has to do with creativity. If it has to do with making sure that there's corporate existence of the people, they will say they don't have power. When it has to do with security, they will tell you they don't have power. But they have power to mobilize police to go and destroy political opponents' property. But they don't have the power to mobilize the security to secure their terrain. It is a serious problem. I've had this conversation in several fora. One of my friends called from the outside the United States. He said, "Come, Ambassador, what is happening in the country?" I said, "Our problem is the governors. Yes, they will have problem at the center, but we have to share the problem. We have to understand where we're coming from and where we are going." Today, you can no longer see the local government is as dead as anything. For instance, we are celebrating the passage of Petroleum Industry Act, signed by the President of the signed by President Muhammadu Buhari. And some group of governors I started agitating that even the 3% or thereabout allocation that's supposed to be meant for the host community should come to them, that they're a better place to manage the resources. When you have managed 13% derivation and you have not been able to give account of that 13% derivation to the host community.
Ambassador, I'm not really cutting you short here, but I really want us to really remain on track and then see the point we're talking about here, strengthening independence and national unity.
Yes.
When we look at other countries, there are things that bind them together. When they see the flag, they even, salute it even without anybody seeing them. And then they feel as if they are first and foremost members or citizens of that country before any other thing else. That is not really obtained in this country, so much so that, people don't feel as if they have anything at stake as a Nigerian. That's what you're talking about.
Why Nigerians feel that they're not being carried along, they're not stakeholder in the project of Nigeria. You imagine you say a Nigerian carrying a Nigerian flag and paint it bad colors, we no longer respect our unity. no longer respect our symbol of unity, which is our flag. Because actually, there's strength in diversity. If we harness the diversity, put into use, Nigeria will be a better place. Just like Prof said, Nigeria is the largest black African race and the largest economy in Africa. But yes, we still have very serious challenges because there's a division and disconnect between the political elite and the people. So on that note, we've not been able to, but in terms of democracy, for sure, we have a lot to celebrate because at this current day, we are talking about rail. We would have talked about rails some years back, but today, at least, it's better than starting than doing nothing. Today, we have a lot to be celebrated because we are still alive, even though we have challenges of security. Insecurity is not just for Nigeria, it's all over the world. It happened in America, it happened anywhere. But we have to come together to fight our common goal because there's unity in diversity. And in diversity, there is strength.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief Chair Melo. Let's return to Professor Olawale Albert in Ibadan Network Center. Professor Albert, maybe it would be helpful for us to take a step back before we return to the subject matter of patriotism that my colleague Nadabo has already put on the table. Why did we seek independence in the first instance? What is it that we were seeking to achieve? Was independence a mere goal so that we would then understand the basis for seeking to strengthen that independence and national unity? And at the time we were seeking independence, were these same whole factors that today hobble our national unity and the full realization of the dividends of our democracy present in the course of the fight for independence?
Well, we sought independence because we thought we would be a better people by managing ourselves. And of course, when you read extant literature on colonialism, you will realize that the colonial master is not here to build a nation. He's not here to build a state. The colonial master is here to tap the resources of the colonial state for the development of the for the development of their countries. And so we felt that by decolonizing the country, taking over the leadership of the country, we will be in a better position to develop ourselves in a faster manner and to govern ourselves according to what the people want. Unfortunately, we have not been able to craft a system that will enable all of us to manage the resources of the country jointly and to enjoy the best of the country. We have actually been having conflicts since the 1914 amalgamation. So let us not deceive ourselves by saying that the conflicts that we're witnessing today started after independence. From 1914 to 1960, we had different conflict issues. For example, my PhD thesis was on the establishment of segregated settlements in Nigerian cities. Sabongeri in Kano, Sabongeri in Kaduna, Sabo in Ibadan, Sabo in Ijebu-Ode, and the rest of them. And all these settlements came out of conflict issues. Northerners in the south would want to regard themselves as being unique and ask for unique settlement pattern, and it was given to them by the colonial masters. In the north, we had the same issues. And then when you look at the number of constitutional conferences that we had up to 1960, I mean, the conferences, the letters of the conferences will tell you that there were conflict issues, but we agreed before independence that Nigeria would be a better country under a federal system of government. The federal system of government is saying you have not too powerful center, and then you have regions that are managing their resources, exploiting resources, and sending to the federal system, for the federal government, some of the resources from the different federating units. And then we also built this into the, our constitution, even up to the 1999 constitution. But the question is, to what extent are we actually implementing the letters of the constitution? The constitutions, if Nigerians could be committed to the so-called demonized 1999 constitution, because sometimes when we speak about 99 constitution, we speak about it as if it's a demonic document. But to me, I don't think that document is as faulty as we often say. My problem is that we are not committed to the implementation of what is contained in that document. So if we decide today to have another constitution, a constitution made in heaven, if we are not willing to abide by the terms of the constitution, we will still be saying the same thing we are saying now.
Professor Olawole. Professor Nuhu, let's look at this independence thing and then see how we can really strengthen it going by what the topic suggests, and then find a better way of enhancing national unity. Before independence, there are lots of Nigerians have traveled wide, really. They've been crisscrossing this country even before independence. They've settled in so many places. When you take the instances of people that came, that left the north and then went to the south and the east and settled and then become, very prominent there. For instance, when we look at the case of Umaru Altine, the person who became the mayor of Enugu in the 50s, is from Sokoto. And look at the case of, more especially, Emmanuel Abu Bidike, right? One, somebody from, from the east, who was, representing Badagry, Ifelodu, and then Ajeromo constituency in the Western House of Assembly. And so many others like that. Talking about what the ambassador said when he went to kind of this weekend and how he found that very gathering, very, interesting combination of all Nigerians in that. Why did you leave the track?
Thank you so very much for this question. In fact, I always try to look at the problems, the political problems we're having from the sociological point of view. For instance, if you look at the communities of Isekiri and Urobo, they are considered to be the most married, intertribal marriages that we witness in this country. There was a time when it was, especially during the later part of Babangida's administration, there was so much, internal strife between these communities. And I just wondered, if these people are considered to be the most inter-tribal or inter-ethnic married people, why can't there be a kind of peace mechanism between them? Why should that be a problem? And if you extrapolate this to the wider Nigerian space, you discover that is precisely what we're having. We have so much in common. People have talked, contributors have talked about the fact that Nigerians have gone to live in another part. Some have lived in other, either south, from the north to the south, from the south to the north. And why is it that we are still finding it difficult to integrate?
That's the big question.
That is the big question. And I think, we really need to go beyond even, to find solution to this, or the answer to this question. And I think we can do it by simply, saying that, for instance, in the Constitution, they only put emphasis on indigeneity instead of, place of residence. Why can't we emphasize in our Constitution? Because, if we are really eking for unity in this country, we have to, if we cannot do it, in a manner that is cultural, that is that we are all human beings, people can come and stay together and forget about their difference because we are all human beings. If we can't do it, then we have to actually bring a policy document. And in the Constitution, we can insert that residence is the basis for representation. Many people will not accept, but this is a unique solution to the problem.
That was just in the past, really. That's what it was.
I mean, it was not as problematic as we are now. I mean, you mentioned Altine. Altine, there was no such provision in the constitution. Yet, Enugu people accepted him to be the mayor. And you also mentioned, the representative, an Igbo representative who is in Amiki, who was elected a representative from Badagry. It is very easy, these are isolated cases, rather, let me put it that way. But if we really want to emphasize on pragmatic approach to unity in this country, I think that, it is time for us to now insert in the Constitution that residence is key to, communal living. And it becomes very easy. I mean, I have benefited from, this extension of this privilege. I am from Kogi State. The distinguished Senator Wamako appointed me vice chancellor to be of his state, Sokoto State.
State University.
State University.
Right.
And it was all. When I asked Your Excellency, why should I be considered? He said, Prof, you have been in Sokoto for God knows how many years. You have contributed. I mean, and indeed, at the point I was appointed, not less than 10 permanent secretaries in the state at that point were my former students. Okay. So I have contributed. I mean, the governor said, you have contributed to the development of this state. Why not? You have also served as, head of department, dean of a faculty. You are deputy vice chancellor within the same university before you got appointed as vice chancellor in the University of Abuja. So you have a track record, and I want you to come and set up my university for me. So, you see, the point I'm saying about residence as a basis for either, representation or giving people positions of responsibility, is what works in my favor. So, I think that we can solve the problem. And His Excellency Ambassador also mentioned the issue of corruption. That is a major problem, for our unity. Because everybody, and that's why people will rather go back to their communities to get, elected to represent them at the center or at the state level, because they think that, people think that, if I have my people there, they are the ones that will represent my interests adequately. And that is usually not the case. People who go into government, evidence is there. I'm even working on issue of corruption in Nigeria as it has affected the democratic process we want to establish in this country. And I discovered that corruption is the one that has actually eroded the inability of this Nigerian community to have a democratic system functioning.
Thank you, Professor Nuhu Yakub. But I was just wondering, the view has also been expressed that when it comes to corruption, there is no ethnicity, there is no religious dichotomy, that corruption doesn't know the color of any of these differences. It is seen as a win-win. Once there's money on the table, we'll forget wherever we come from and say, let's split. Isn't it that the case?
That's the permanent interest.
That's a permanent interest.
That's the permanent
but it is access, fighting over resources and all that some would say. But back to Dr. Osawaru in our Benin Network Center. Dr. Osawaru, when we say strengthen our independence, the whole idea will be independence for what? Ability to govern ourselves for economic prosperity, govern ourselves for the well-being of the citizens. What is it that we can better do in this regard to ensure that the goals of independence are fulfilled tremendously, and then we have our place rightly so in the sun?
The goal of independence was self-mastery, that we should wrest the control of our destiny from those who came over uninvited to colonize us. And so far, we are having a discussion now amongst ourselves. We are not blaming anybody, whatever we are ending up with, apart from some forms of external interference. We don't have any person to really blame for our situation. So that's what independence is supposed to be. We are making our bed the way we like it, and we are lying on it the way we also choose. Now, the situation is not altogether acceptable to majority of people, at least aesthetically, and we want to move away from it. That very independence is going to be the instrument we need. We don't have to appeal to any higher authorities. We are an independent state, a Republican state, a democratic state now. So, yes, we have control over our affairs. Then when it comes to the issue of patriotism we were talking about before, as a way of strengthening our independence and our national unity, we have to know that patriotism is a kind of relationship. A citizen loves his country. There's a vertical relationship between the state and the citizen in the first instance. Now, what is going to be the content of that relationship? Because there must be a bargain. What does the nation-state owe the citizen? So it comes back to the issue of leadership and good governance people have been talking about in the studio and in Ibadan this morning. So if the affairs of our country are well run and every citizen sees himself as benefiting, of course he's going to love the country. What he knows will not be possible without the country that accrues to him. When he compares himself to citizens of other countries and he knows that he's better off and the difference is accounted for on account of his Nigerian citizenship, of course he has a lot to defend. So we need to run the country better, we need to select better leadership. Of course, just like Professor Yakub has also said, the followership needs to be better educated to know that they also have a responsibility, not to just carry on as robots and so on, accept just everything. So they must participate. It's a democracy. They must have a hand in selecting who their leaders will be, of course, with the ramification into whether our electoral process has integrity, what to put in a ballot box is what is announced. Those will be some other issues some other day. But citizens must know that they are major stakeholders in the destiny of the nation they belong. And as way of promoting national unity and so on, all the policies that are already there, provisions in our constitution, federal character, quota system, that will enhance a sense of belonging, nobody is left out. Just like Professor from Ibadan has said, we need to be committed to the provisions already in our constitution, even as we try to amend whatever defects we perceive in that same document. So it's going to be an enterprising thing. We need to get leadership that would infuse a lot of energy into the deficits we have suffered, and so on. And we also have institutions we need to promote. The National Youth Service, for instance, that people are subjecting to a debate, which I find unfortunate. A National Youth Service, for instance, is a good vehicle for real integration over time. We need to make larger budgetary allocation to enable youth service, encourage our young people to see this nation as their own, a nation to be fostered, a nation that will in turn foster them, and so on and so on. So most of the things are there. We just need leadership and, of course, the orientation of the followership to know that national goals that are important to our collective welfare need to be pursued with vigor. I think, so to repeat, there's a lot to celebrate about Nigeria, but we need to cover our deficits. And I need to add, if you don't mind, that Professor Yakub, his comments I have found very, very refreshing. And it's not surprising to me that he's a man of the caliber, and we need many more of his own type. Even as he comes from academia, we need more academic people, intellectuals, to come into this discussion and shape the destiny of Nigeria, to supply the ideas and get the men and women who will implement them to make Nigeria fulfill its destiny.
Thank you, Dr. Osawaru. Professor Nuhu Yakubu, we need more refreshers, therefore, from you. So let's get to hear more from you. We talked about, when you listened to him, he talked about the NYSC, the Federal Character Commission. You talked about the Unity Schools, for instance, and a hell of other organs and institutions that were put in place right after the Civil War in order to further integrate Nigerians and make them one. And of course, between the 70s into the late 90s, I think these very institutions and agencies have played great role in achieving those objectives. Unfortunately, beyond the time and coming to today, it seems as if the dividends are gradually not being consolidated, rather, but looking at it from different perspectives. Trust has been eroded, and then people have started thinking as if I belong to myself first, than to anybody, then somebody else, to my community first, before my state, to my religion, to this and that, before becoming Nigerians. That seemed to be eroding, the gains made in the golden days of Nigeria.
Thank you very, very much. I think, Dr. Sauru has actually, also added to, what I think should actually be the path we have to, with us, we have to, follow to actually, get, the deeper aspect of what we now call the dividends of independence. The unity schools. I mean, that was a creative idea by the late Prime Minister. That there should be a way to meld together the Nigerian people. And it worked. I mean, somebody was telling, was taken from Kwara State then to go to Sokoto, to go to the Federal Government College. Went there, got acclimatized his language, Yoruba person, learned the language, and he fitted into the society. And every time he says, I have to come to Sokoto, it's a very peaceful place. That experience, in fact, they say experience is better than knowledge. That experience, has actually created a sense of patriotism or, belonging that would not have been possible if he didn't experience it. But I have a problem with this issue of, a federal character. It is not an affirmative action, the way people are defining it. And because it is now a question of, everybody will have to be given, every state will have to be represented. I recall that when the president came to power, was elected in 2015, he actually made a statement to the effect that, he was forced to go and have several ministers that were unrequired. If only he was, the Constitution had not stated it. Everybody has to be represented at the federal level. At the state level, every local government has to be represented. And it actually contributes to the cost of, governance, which could be avoided. And therefore, I've always been arguing that, federal character is not the solution to this problem. What we need to do is affirmative action. Now, this is an area that is backward, either educationally, put in more institutions that can help and galvanize, the local people to come to, at least to reduce the deficit, the extent of, the difference between educationally advanced and educationally, backward areas. That is not being done. And I think, we need to really revisit. It's a good idea, there's federal character, but give a percentage. This is what CEDAW do. During the conference of women in Beijing in 1985 or 95. You give a quantum, or a quantum of the number of people, women that have to be in the parliament, and from there you begin to see the role the women will play, either in parliament or at the executive level, to the extent that women may even come and overwhelm the men that normally dominate the whole space. But if you just leave it at everybody must be, every state must be there, then you end up having people who go there and their mentality is simply that I'm representing the state, instead of on the basis of the fact that they are competent and qualified. And the way politics, in fact, corruption is not just about people stealing money. Even policy measures of this nature will actually lead to corruption, because you end up having people who are not even qualified to be given such a prominent position. So I will support most unit schools to be built. I will support I will support more schools to be support also that there must be policies or instruments of integration, such as federal character, but defined in a different manner, that will enable us to actually have quality people there. And I also think that, as much as possible, the point I have raised earlier, i.e., give emphasis to residence, where people reside. Because, when you live I stay in Abuja at the moment, and, everything I do is about Abuja, not about my community. So that idea that, somebody is accepted, he can actually be involved in the way and the running of, the system within his locality propels the person to be more interested in what is happening in the area where he lives. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. In fact, the only time I think Nigerians actually express their patriotism in this country is when there is a football match between Nigeria and other countries.
And they are playing well.
And they are playing well. That's right. They are playing well.
That's right. Okay, Professor Yakub, thanks. I just want us to go back to Professor Lawale Albert at our Ibadan Center. Professor Albert, we keep talking about these instruments of integration that we've had over the years, but which, of course, are facing severe challenges now. Unity Schools is one of them. The other is the NYSC scheme. And then we also have the whole idea of federal character, which is enshrined in the Constitution. I mean, some persons will ask, say, look, what is it that we are doing with our management skills in ensuring that these instruments continue to serve our purpose for purposes of for the whole idea of national unity. For instance, at some point in this country, unity schools were the choice of the elite for their children. Today, that's not necessarily the case. The NYSC has become virtually a case now where you are struggling to get your ward to serve in your hometown so that you can keep an eye over that individual, and there are various complaints about the abuses of the federal character principle, just as Professor Yakub has indicated. So what can we do? Is it a question of creating more instruments or seeking to evaluate what has gone wrong with those integrative instruments?
I think what we need to do, first and foremost, is for the Nigerian state to be willing to have what is called peace architecture. Peace architecture has to do with determining the kind of peace you want to have, and then connecting that instrument to different arms of government. Because for you to have a peaceful nation, you must connect all your institutions. Now, when we established the NYSC after the Civil War, it was thought that by doing your national service out of your place of origin, that you will acquire some national ethos. You will acquire some peaceful ethical standards that will help, that will contribute to building the nation. When we were establishing the unity schools, we thought that by our children growing together, studying together, we would have young people growing into structures that will build the nation. But it doesn't work that simply. What all nations of the world, what they do is to have a national peace architecture. You have a central peace policy for the country. And we've been struggling with that since 1999. Part of the support that the international community sought to give to Nigeria when we transited from military to civil rule in 1999 was to help Nigeria have a peace structure. And I work with some Nigerians to write what we call Nigerian peace policy. But that peace policy was never passed into law until the administration of President Obasanjo left office. That document today is lying at the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution in Abuja. And the last time I looked at the document, it is dated because we have added to our problems since that time. When I became the regional board chairman of the West African Network for Peace Building in Ghana, I tried to make Nigeria have a peace policy and to have a peace architecture. But we were not successful. And what happened was that when the international community realized that Nigeria was not serious with having a peace architecture, they went to Ghana. And the Peace Commission in Ghana was established. And as part of the peace architecture in Ghana, the Peace Studies Program at the University of Cape Coast was established. The National Peace Commission was established and connected to the military, connected to different organs of the state. But I think the problem we are having in Nigeria is that for you to have a durable peace architecture, the leaders themselves must be willing to say we are ready for peace, because the leadership must be written into the document to say that leaders will not engage in any activity that will generate conflict. And I think that is the problem we are having in Nigeria, and that is why everybody is running away from that document. Now, there is what we call multi-track diplomacy. For you to have sustainable peace in a nation, you need to work with 9 tracks. The first track is the government. The peace process must start with the government, and that is why government institutions are referred to technically as track 1, diplomats. Track 2, civil society organizations. Track 3, business organizations. Track 4, eminent persons in the society. Track 5, academic institutions. Track 6, the so-called human rights activists. Track 7. So you must connect all these institutions, and all of them must be committed to having a peaceful nation. But what we have in Nigeria today is the federal government has acquired all the powers.
Professor Albert, thanks for your comment. I mean, the temptation is always very strong that when you seek to drill further into an issue, then you veer out before you come back to the issues. We recognize the comments that you have made with regard to the peace imperative. But our critical issue here, what I asked had to do with what we can do as a country to enhance the integrative instruments that we have at the moment, or whether there is need for us to create fresh instruments as part of the ways of enhancing our national unity and, of course, also strengthening our democracy. But, of course, we will continue to interrogate aspects of this conversation when we return from this short break.
Ministry of Works and Housing has the responsibility to help improve the quality and the quantity of the road infrastructure assets, which are the roads and the bridges and the highways. At the moment, we have over 13,000 kilometers of road network under repair, reconstruction, or rehabilitation out of the existing 35,000 kilometers of federal road network. These 13,000 kilometers are comprising about 850 different contracts which the ministry superintends across Nigeria. We are fulfilling the mandate of our ministry to expand the connectivity of Nigeria's states and by extension the towns and villages through road transport.
Dear compatriots, our country can be as great as we want.
Let us all commit ourselves to its greatness.
We must be willing to set aside our differences, unite and stay as one.
In our expansive landmass, human and material resources, and plurality lies our strength.
Let our challenges lead us to rediscover our common ground, and together, let's find solutions.
This will take some time, so it requires patience, tolerance, and forgiveness from every one of us.
Let all hands come on deck to protect and transform our country.
Let us unite and see each other not as adversaries, but as brothers and sisters.
Together, we can build a better Nigeria for ourselves and for the next generations.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA, with support from Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Chelsea will look to bounce back from their loss against the defending champions when they take on Southampton at Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed? Find out this Saturday on the Premier League Live. It's Chelsea versus Southampton, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu, empowered by Integral.
Well, it's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you from the Nigerian Television Authority. Here we're discussing strengthening our independence at 61 and, of course, strengthening national unity. Before we went on break, we were discussing the issue of trying to see how peace and conflict resolution could really enhance that. But I'd rather not take it up from there. Let me go over to, or rather speak to Ambassador Obiazoba, and then hear from you. What would you tell Nigerians about these issues? These issues are talking about what the Prof said and what our colleague in Benin said, what the one of our guests in Benin said, that is, when we look at these agencies and institutions that were put in place to strengthen national unity, over the years they become something else. And then the elites have not really, did not really take advantage of these institutions to further strengthen the unity of this country. And at independence, it was all about trying to see us how we can manage our own affairs, because the British people, or rather the British, have gone. What else? How do we really enhance national unity in this regard, using these institutions, especially the NYSC, for instance, and the unity schools? The Prof already thrown more light on that. Your own opinion, how do we strengthen national unity using these institutions or any other ones you can prefer?
Thank you very much. The issue of national unity, just like as Prof said about unity school, in past few months ago, I had some of the House National Assembly members agitating for the scrapping of National Youth Service Corps. I said, no, we are of view that there's no way you can scrap National Youth Service Corps, because that is one of the only things that remain that keeps us together, make us to connect to various state and community. You raise your child from Imo State, maybe from primary, secondary school to university, and he's going to have a national youth service in maybe Adamawa or maybe in Yola or thereabout. You go there and sometimes they don't even come back again after their youth service, because when you go there, you find out the environment is even a bit better. You get into the system, sometimes learn the languages of that place. So that is the ban of that National Youth Service Corps. So there's no way you can scrap such. The only thing we have is a lack of managerial skill. Some of the institutions have not been able to live up to expectations. You create an environment where you train and retrain people in the various departments so that I can be able to give you the quality service you so desire. If we have a strong character in managerial skill, like National Orientation Agency, and also so many agencies that have been set up by the government that have the statutory mandate to be able to educate and interact to our people. Some of them are not even going to believe it. You can't even hear them. They are no longer even talking. Before, when we were growing up, you can see some advert from them telling you, love one another, do this and all that. Sometimes they will even speak. You see, I was trying to speak your Igbo language during, interactive session and all that. But it's no longer there. I don't know whether it's funding, but because the institutions are very weak. We need to build our institutions to be able to lift up expectation, because the world is fast revolving. We are not revolving alongside with the world. If you have budgetary allocation of, for instance, 10 million in one ministry in 20 years back, today you expected to raise that budgetary allocation to at least 20, 30 billion, because of the challenges we are facing today. It's not the same challenges we were facing during the 1960s. If we talk about 1960 and talk about today, we have so many institutions. How many universities do we have in the country today? How many are being properly funded to be able to go into science and research? COVID-19 is all over. So many countries have begun to do their research to develop their vaccine. Have we been able to, within our context, within our capacity, to be able to do something and develop something and call our own? So the institutions are not we don't have institutions, but the issue is that the institutions are weak. And corruption is part of the key element that destroy the system. corruption is high on the high side. It's very on the high side because if you deal with the issue of corruption, I think we'll begin to get relatively results. Without sanitizing the system to an extent, you can't kill corruption completely. After all, even those who are fighting it all over the world have not been able to do so. But we are saying if we can be able to curtail corruption to the barest minimum, you will see development, you will see unity, you will see national cohesion, you will see national integration. Everything will revolve.
Thank you, Ambassador Chiemelo. Back to Professor Nuhu Yakub. Let's just remind ourselves of a comment made earlier by Dr. Okuzua Osawaru that the age of tribal entities as administrative units, that age is long past. And when you look at Europe, for instance, there is something that is of a challenge to us from what we know of European countries today. Two of the most advanced economies in Europe, Germany and Italy, were made of small ethnic, if you like, tribal groups. Mm-hmm. But as Osawaru also indicated, we need a unifier. Giuseppe Garibaldi was a unifier of Italy. Mm-hmm. Otto von Bismarck was a unifier of Germany. Mm-hmm. What can we do to generate such unifying enthusiasm amongst our people and to make that a national goal? This is all part of the integrative instrument we're talking about, to say, look, this is a leader, this is the goal, and every person keys into that and say, look, this belongs to all of us. And then we are up and running. That's the greatest black nation on earth. Mm. What are the challenges in achieving this unification through appropriate leadership?
Okay, I'm happy that you ended up by saying appropriate leadership. I think that is very key. Apart from the institutions we talk about and other modalities of integration, but I think that what is grievously lacking is leadership deficit that we have in this country. It's very important. As much as I have also added that we need to also have a followership that is energized. We should not just lay back, be dormant, and just be waiting until what the man, either at the center or in the periphery of the states, will say is the trajectory, and then everybody will follow like dummies. We need leadership that will actually exude discipline, commitment, sacrifice. These are things that are lacking. I am doing work now which is looking at what has happened since the commencement of the Fourth Republic, 1999. We had, Nigerians shop for, let me put it that way, shop for, an experienced person in leadership, and Obasanjo was elected. And I was expecting that he will come with a vision that will actually say, we are not going to allow, one, the military to come back again. Two, we are going to ensure that there is equity. We are going to ensure that there is efficiency in the system. I'm not saying that he didn't try to come up with certain programs, but they were not sustained. They were not sustained because at a point he was even trying to erode constitutional provision of 2 terms. We are not going to run away from the fact that he tried to actually entrench himself.
He tried and then?
And he failed.
Good.
He tried and he failed. He failed. But that already, created, a mindset that, you can, by impunity, even erode the constitutional provisions. It was not necessary. So if we do not continue to have leadership succession based on what is this national vision that everybody has to key into, honestly speaking, we will continue to, either you hold conferences, you call people to Good Morning Nigeria program to come and discuss, unity of the people of Nigeria. We will not have it. the commitment from leadership is lacking. And then we do not have to run away from the issue of corruption. It's a major problem in this country. I mean, I look at figures of Nigerians who have monies in overseas countries. And you ask the question, how do they make this money? You know, if you look at their career trajectories, you discover that people have not earned as much income as they had what they have in foreign banks.
Is that so much of a problem? Is this so much of a Prof? I just want you to amplify this.
That's right.
Is this so much of a problem that they have accumulated that much, or that it bespeaks their lack of faith in the country by taking the money out? Why do they not have faith in this same environment from where they are mining those resources, even illegally?
Thank you so very much. That is the point I'm also making in the paper I'm writing. That why couldn't people display, patriotism and invest, save this money in this country? Investors would be able to access funds or funding for their, investment, which is denied to them. Yet, that kind of money they have stored away, is helping to energize the economies of these countries. So I think the point is, this is why I said, we need to get people who are leadership to be patriotic. And Nigerians continue to ask questions. We just don't have to fold our arms and believe that, we have leaders and they are, philosophers. Plato will say, philosopher kings. No, our leaders, we should also, define them as people who have their own foibles. And they have. No single individual is so perfect. And we continue to actually pose questions to them, critical questions that they have to answer. And if there is any policy measure that is being made, let us all come out and demonstrate against it. This is when leadership will continue to know that there is a need to listen to the followership. But if we just fold our arms, I'm sure, of course, it is going to be, as they say about the computer, junk in, junk out.
Oh, thank you so much, Professor Nuhu Yakubu. We have barely some 5-6 minutes left on this program. Let's go over to Oluwole in Ibadan and then hear your parting thoughts, and then see. Yeah, we really would want to get your thoughts on that. Rather, Dr. Osauro, I would say, from Benin. Let's hear your parting thoughts on this issue. The Prof has, the Prof raised a lot of questions here, talking about leadership issue and leadership deficit. And that is really going to be the catalyst in trying to move Nigeria forward. What's your thought about that, and how do you think this would enhance national unity?
Leadership, even at the very best, takes place in the context of values. Professor Yakub referred to Chinua Achebe much earlier, was reflecting on leadership generally. But the same Chinua Achebe said most of our values are rather pedestrian and banal. For instance, we talk about unity, harp on unity excessively and so on. But he felt, Chinua Achebe felt we should raise our game. We should talk more about justice. We should talk more about equity, inclusion, and so on. We just need to create lofty values in the first instance before you now talk about how the leadership will implement them. And in building a nation, really, we talk about statesmanship much earlier on. We must have a very discernible leadership selection process. Our process appears a bit too random. We have had some good public servants. Nobody will deny what Chief Abefemi Awolowo did in Western region. And for those in uniform in my own part of the country, people talk about Samuel Iwemudia as well. And you also have a lot of people at the civil service level who have done their best. But we must institute a kind of discernible process, as I said before, for leadership recruitment that is rigorous enough to be able to throw up a reasonable mass of people we can entrust our values to. The institutions we are talking about all morning, how to run them and make them live up to their purpose and so on. And then to put the welfare of Nigerians at the very, very center of the purpose of our national being. As a matter of fact, it's in our constitution as well. Maybe because our commitment to the constitution is a bit lax. It is then our constitution that the very welfare of Nigerians is what Nigeria exists for. So we should raise men and women who who will be able to serve this purpose even as we create new values that will raise the nation to achieve its own purpose, both within and without.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okunzua Osawaru, for your comments. I just also would like to get the closing thoughts of Professor Olawale Albert from our Ibadan Network Center in the context of leadership recruitment and therefore seeking to get a unifier of diverse entities that we have in Nigeria. How do we avoid ethnic and parochial capture of leadership?
Well, I am happy that we are returning to the leadership question. We started with the leadership issue, and the agreement so far is that there is leadership deficit in the country. Nigeria may not be a peaceful nation if our leaders are not committed to peace building. And as we have all said, it starts from the leadership recruitment process. How do we identify our leaders? How do we recruit them? Our votes, do they really count during elections? And those who have been voted into office, are they actually committed to the peace of the country? Commitment to the peace of the country is saying that the recruited leaders will be committed to the letters of our Constitution, and their performance in office should be the type that will make Nigeria to be a peaceful country. I mean, we've spoke at great length on the issue of corruption. When you steal the resources needed for building a state, you are creating very poor people. And the more poor people you have, the more conflictogenic your environment is. Because if you are hungry and you are unable to feed yourself, of course you engage in anything to maintain your survival. So the point we are trying to make here is that it starts with leadership. And to me, it ends with leadership. Because good leaders will will attract and produce good followers.
Well, thank you so very much, Professor Olawale. The point has been made really. In 30 seconds, Ambassador, your parting thoughts on Nigeria's 61 years and, of course, national unity.
Yeah, will continue to talk, and constructive engagement is always needed. It's not yet Uhuru, but are we where we're supposed to be? The answer is no. But are we making progress? The answer is yes. Just like as Professor started by saying yes and small no. So I also align with him that yes, but small no. We will get there, collective effort. I think collective engagement and collective efforts will get to where we're supposed to go to. So thank you very much.
Naturally, by maybe when we come here next year, talk about our second independence anniversary, we shall be having a very big yes with no at all.
That's right. Professor Nuhu Yakub, of course, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja and Sokoto State University. We do appreciate you for your contribution to our conversation today. Yes, in caps, and then no in lowercase. Thanks a lot for being our guest this morning. From our Benin Network Center, we were joined by Dr. Okunzua Osawaru, a regular on Good Morning Nigeria and the public affairs analyst. Deep thanks also for your insight. From Ibadan, we had Professor Olawale Albert of the University of Ibadan. Gentlemen, thanks a lot. And here in the studios also, Chief Obizoba Chiemelo. Thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you.
All right, so to close, let's go over to our sports desk. Yesterday, of course, Barcelona got battered.
Cristiano Ronaldo marked its record-breaking 178th Champions League appearance with a 95th minute winner as Manchester United snatched a 2-1 victory over Villarreal at Old Trafford Wednesday. United fell behind early in the second half to Paco Alcácer's smart finish, but Alex Telles' stunning strike quickly leveled.
Telles, what a goal for Manchester United!
The five-time Ballon d'Or winner had barely threatened until he fired past Geronimo Rulli at the back post with virtually the last kick of the game. In the other Wednesday's matchday 2 results, Chelsea suffered a disappointing Champions League defeat as Federico Chiesa's strike 10 minutes after the interval gave Juventus 1-0 victory in Turin. Robert Lewandowski scored twice for the second straight Champions League game this season as Bayern Munich cruised to a 5-0 home win over the Dynamo Kiev, and Barcelona suffered more European humiliation after a 3-0 defeat by Benfica. And in boxing, legend Manny Pacquiao has officially announced his retirement from the sport. His retirement comes after his stunning defeat to Udenis Ugas on August 21st. Pacquiao won 12 world titles and is also the only fighter in history to win titles in 8 different weight classes. Manny Pacquiao finished his 26-year boxing career with 62 victories, 8 losses and 2 draws.
All right, so it's Good Morning Nigeria done for today. We are back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Of course, tomorrow is October the 1st, and it will be the 61st independence anniversary of our great country. See you tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Yusuf Nadabo Usman. Happy Independence Anniversary.
Service of the NTA.
For 61 years and still counting, sports remain a unifying factor amongst Nigerians, an instrument for peaceful coexistence despite challenges and differences. Efforts in top gear to revitalize indigenous sports as election into sports federations takes center stage. Warm welcome to Sports Street. My name is Olumide Guntola. Please join us after the break for an exciting package.
NTA Sports 24, where sports thrive.
Let's start with national elections of sports federations. Pre-election activities is currently going on at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja. The Electoral Committee are expected to conduct elections into 23 federations that were yet to have their own constitutions approved by their international bodies. These elections will lead to the emergence of presidents and vice presidents of the various national sports federations. Voting is scheduled for 11:30 a.m., while the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, is expected to inaugurate the boards immediately the results are declared.
I'm expecting that for the very first time, those who are aspiring either to come into the offices new or those who are aspiring to come back should come with sincerity of purpose.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dari, and some of his colleagues in Africa have suggested an holistic approach to sports development in the continent.
I think it's dream of Africa host international Olympic Games or African Games. They will set up the plan for the facilities. I'm telling you, we finish our facilities. We have a new facility. I will make a presentation tomorrow. I will the pleasure to have because of we have in the Olympics or whatever international. I'm saying I know what I'm saying, and we start 2019 for in 5 months only. We have the African Cup in football, and we said we have to represent the Africa to the world. We are not have the facility to represent Egypt.
That this 40th anniversary of Anoka and this meeting is taking place barely after the Olympics. I think it's very timely because we're all sitting here backing up on the memories of the Olympics, seeing how our countries will have done excellently, seeing how we will have given our athletes better opportunities, learning from the best in the world. And this gives us an opportunity to move forward. And that's why these ideas have come forward. And I think that beyond or after this meeting, we're going to see more action. Finally, I called it SIMCA, Sports Ministers Conference of Africa. That occurs maybe once or twice a year with a clear agenda, a 4-point action plan. Even the International Olympic Committee, the World Athletics and the rest will take note. But also, I want to suggest that His Excellency, the Minister of Youth and Sports of Egypt, will be tasked, we are tasking everybody now, to see how he can, after this meeting, with the backing of Anoka, write a letter to all the ministers of youth and sports across the African continent to say, this is our vision. And indeed, he has the license to say, Egypt is ready to host the Olympic and host the world. Egypt is doing it for the whole of Africa. And then we can get responses and agree on how we're going to convene and then set a new sports agenda for Africa.
Okay, we're really happy to share all that we have in common with the whole of Africa. To trace a strategic vision together.
Talking golf now, as part of activities marking 61st Nigeria independence, IBB Golf and Country Club is set to organize a week tourney that is off Thursday. Omoyemwem Unubum reports.
500 amateur and professional golfers drawn from across Nigeria and beyond will take part in this year's Independence Day anniversary with an 18-hole golf tournament. The annual competition organized by the IBB Golf and Country Club, which will commemorate Nigeria's independence, will tee off Thursday at the IBB Golf and Country Club in Abuja. The tournament will see golfers hustle for trophies and souvenirs in different categories, including men, ladies, and veterans. The chairman of the organizing committee and vice captain of the club, Mike Ekoja, said the tournament is to create more awareness on the need for peace and unity in the country.
This tournament we organize involves all members of the club. We also have guest golfers that come to participate. We will be having golfers from Ghana.
The tournament will be an action-packed, which will see dignitaries from different quarters coming to have a glimpse of the competition. In Abuja, Omoyemi Unubum.
Talking about football now, some results of matches played on Wednesday in the UEFA Champions League are a 5-0 defeat of Dynamo FC by Bayern Munich. Benfica humbled Barcelona with 3 unreplied goals. Young Boys fell 0-1 to Atlanta. Manchester United smiled home with a 2-1 win over Villarreal. The affair between Wolfsburg and Sevilla ended 1 goal apiece. Juventus recorded a 1-0 win over Chelsea, among other results. In the Europa League, matches slated for Thursday include Real Sociedad against Monaco, Napoli versus Sparta Moscow. Royal Antwerp will entertain Frankfurt Football Club. Lazio is up against Lokomotiv Moscow, while Celtic will trade tackles with Bayern Leverkusen, among other matches. Sports Street will now move over to Bauchi State, where Mahmoud Ibn Mohammed reports that the 20th edition of the Northeast Zonal Preliminaries of the Nigeria Colleges of Education Games is underway at the Aminu Sale College of Education. 5 colleges of education are competing for participation at the main championship slated for Yola, Adamawa State on a yet-to-be-decided date.
191 athletes and 28 officials, all from 5 colleges of education, are taking part in the 20th Northeast Zonal Elimination of the Nigeria Colleges of Education Games at the Aminu Saleh College of Education, Azare, Bauchi State.
Such a tournament is mostly organized for the purpose of promoting national unity and all development of talent or potentials in sports wherever held. To this effect, I'm optimistic that the current event will not only serve as an avenue of bringing the much desired unity among the participating colleges, but will equally promote understanding, integration, and cooperation for mutual benefits.
We have so many colleges of education in Zone F. Through zonal preliminaries, we get the institutions that qualify to represent the zone in the national Nasiga Games to play with all manners of togetherness, unity, and fair play.
With qualification to the main championship at stake, athletes are competing in football, badminton, basketball, hockey, volleyball, table tennis, handball, and langa.
All here to bring back the trophy at home, inshallah.
My expectation is we play this game fair play, and may the Lord continue to guide us so that we can see the end of this game.
Expectation for our athletes is to develop sportsmanship at the end of the day to become a professional athlete for this College of Education, Azare.
In the opening game of the competition, host Aminu Saleh College of Education, Azare in white, was held to a 1-1 draw by Federal College of Education Technical Gombe in yellow in the men's football event. The 4-day championship is expected to round up on Thursday, 30th. In Bauchi, Mahmoud Ibn Muhammad, NTA Sports.
This is T-Sports 3 from the Nigerian Television Authority, the Africa's largest television network. Let's go on this break. We'll be right back.